Hi all, hope you're doing well. I'm just going to do a small tutorial on some masks and frames. Let me open my Photoshop up, and I'm going to be working on my blank scrapbook page. I'm going to open my Finder up and go out and pull a couple frames. Use my tags over here and frame. And I'm going to change this to icons. Okay. And let's just grab that one and stick it over there. And then we'll go back out and get, let me just grab, I'll go out to my desktop, and I have a short list of frames that I use a lot. So I've put them on my desktop, and icons, and let me grab one of these. Okay. Excuse me. Stick that one down there, and then I'm going to grab one more here. Go ahead and open that one up. That comes in as a PSD file. And what I'm going to do is grab the, I'm going to hide the back two here. Okay. And then this top one, I'm going to straighten up a little bit here real quick. Okay, so this one is called a mask, and it has a frame. It has some staples, some embellishments on it. But let me grab a photo here. Just grab it off the desktop. So if I bring it over and I drop it, it's on top. And if you take it down to where it says we've got the staples, so we don't want to mess with those. We're going to go below that. And then we have the frame, the photo, and the shadow. So the shadow is of this back part. I'm going to take the frame. I'm going to show you. Let me move this off to the side here. Now if you watch the frame, it's going to go away. And then you can see the shadow. I'll take that away now. And then you see this part, this gray part here, that is called the mask. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to bring the photo over, and I'm going to make it really much larger. Click the check mark, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this photo and drop it on top of where it says photo 3, on top of that gray mask. And it doesn't do anything. But if you right click on your mouse and go down to create clipping mask, it automatically clips it to that shape. Now I'm going to put the shadow back on, and then I'm going to put the frame back on to where you can see it. And so it automatically frames that picture. So you can move the picture around, but it stays. Let me undo those two. It stays on this gray shape. Now if it was a circle, it would clip the photo to a circle. So whatever you have as your background, that's what it's going to clip as. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the shadow, and I'm going to hit the frame. So that's called a mask, and how to use that. So now I'm going to go back over here. We've got two frames. These are PNG frames. We'll work with this one real quick at first. So I'll take the background color off, and you can see that because it is a PNG frame. There's a transparent background. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that photo again and I'm going to bring it over and drop it on that frame. And if I clip it, right click and create a clipping mask, it's going to clip the photo into as part of that frame. And you can see that photo is on that frame now. But that's not what I want. So I'm going to hit Edit, Undo, and I'm going to take the picture. The picture's still there, but I took the view off of it. And so a lot of times you get PNG files, and they you either have to, let me bring the photo in, you either have to bring the photo in and try and make it fit, or you can take it like this, put it below the frame, and then what you can do is you can either take and right click onto your on your cropping mark, you left click on your cropping mark where you get this X, come up to your height and width and take that lock off, and you can move your frame to that to make it to fit that size, but then you still have this overhang. So then what you can do is you can actually take your rectangle marquee tool and click on the photo, and then what you do is you kind of eyeball it and you delete that part. Sometimes you have to raster size your layers because it doesn't recognize it. So you just right click and then raster size your layer. Now I can delete it because it's going to recognize it. And then Command D to unselect it. So there you have that option. But that's not what we want. So undo clear, undo raster size, undo rectangle marquee, and I'm going to undo the freeform. And so what I'm going to do is take my move tool, click on my frame, and I'm going to go up here to the width and the height, and I'm going to lock that in so now it's proportionate. So what we're going to do is I'll move the photo off to the side, and what I'm going to do is create another layer, create a new layer, and I'm going to put it directly beneath the frame. And I'm going to grab my marquee tool, and I'm going to go in just inside the frame. Let's see if I can get the white background here. I'm going to go, you can see the border of the frame. I'm going to go just inside that and create a box. And then I'm going to come over here to where the three little dots are, and I'm going to, it has the angle, and you can select all kinds of different options here, but I'm going to select the paint bucket tool. And I have the black already selected, and I'm just going to bring the paint bucket and just drop it, and it paints that layer black, only in that rectangle square, or that rectangle did it paint it. And so I'm going to Command D to unselect it, and go up and get my move tool, and I'm going to take the frame off so you don't see it. So now it has a black background underneath the frame, and you can do this with a lot of your PNGs. What you want to do is put a black frame, a black rectangle or circle behind it, so that now when I bring this photo over, I'm going to put the photo on top of the black that we just created. I'm going to enlarge that photo. I'm going to hit the check mark, and the photo is on top of the black layer that we just created. We're going to use that as our clipping mask. So now on the photo, if you right click, go down to create a clipping mask, and there you have it. So then it clips the photo directly onto that shape, that rectangle shape that we made. And then what you want to do is, after you edit your photo and you get it placed, maybe you want to bring it in a little bit more, then what you can do is you can click on all three of those layers so that you can move them. You will want to right click, go down here to merge the layers, and then you can move it all three together. So that's one way to do that. This one here, also, I'll take the background off. This one here is a PNG file, and it has a transparent background on it. So I'll put that white on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here where it says Rectangle Marquee Tool, and right in the corner it has that little arrow, so it shows that there is another option. I'm going to select the Elliptical Marquee Tool. And since it's not the Elliptical Marquee Tool is not an exact circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of eyeball coming in the center of that top one, and then I want to center, kind of come over to the corner of each of these. So what I'm going to do is come over here, eyeball it. That looks good. I'm going to left click and hold and drag. And then I'm going to make that circle. That looks pretty even around all of them. And I'm going to release. And then I'm going to come over and pick up, I forgot to make an extra layer. So you can, don't panic, you can still do this. So I'm going to hit the plus sign down here, make another layer, and I'm going to bring it down below this pink frame. I have black selected, and I have the paint bucket selected. So what I'm going to do is take the paint bucket, drop it in the circle here on that layer that we just created, and it makes it black. So that's going to be our clipping mask. So Command D to take off the selection. Go up and get your Move tool. I'm going to bring since I've already layered this, I would have to undo everything. So I'm going to go over and grab the photo again and bring it over and drop it. Bring it down here, and it's much larger again. So I'm going to take it and drop it down on top of that black round layer that we just made. And then right click, create a clipping mask, and it creates the clipping mask right onto that circle that we made, onto that black circle. So I'm going to hit the check mark, and I'll take off the pink frame so you can see. So that it clipped it directly to that circle that we made. We've got the pink frame, and before I would do anything on this, I would clip on the pink frame, and if you wanted to bevel it to kind of give it a little distinction before that, and a drop shadow, kind of gives a little drop shadow, and it looks like it's actually on top of the photo instead of blending in with the photo. And then you can hit OK, and then you can actually merge those three layers together, and now you can move that all around. So that's another option. Let me open up one more frame here. Sometimes you will get frames that already have mask on them. I'm going to go in here, grab this real quick. And so this here is a white frame, and it has already the black mask behind it. So what I do a lot of times is I will just leave this open, and if I'm working with these frames and on another, maybe 2 or 3 different scrapbook pages. And what I do is I click it on, but make sure that you take the frame mask, and right above it will be the white frame. and then you can just drag it right onto your page. And then if you click off of it and you go and you actually don't grab both of them, you can actually just hit undo and it'll put it right back together. So I'll grab the photo again, bring it over on top, move it up here, and I'm going to take it on top of that black frame mask. It can be black or gray. And then right click down to create clipping mask, and it clips it right into that photo, into that frame, onto that mask. So just leave that there, and then again hit the check mark, and then you can layer these, merge the layers, and so then you can move it around. Then we have another one here. Let me open up. Now let me just go out here and open that. It's a PSD file, so it'll come up in a separate window. And so let me Command minus, shrink that down a little bit. So this is what's called a watercolor mask. And so we've got actually two masks on this one. And I'll take the mask off, and you can see the white line of the frame. And real quick, what I'll do is I'll put a contour, a drop shadow on it, so it kind of defines it a little bit more. We can even do a stroke on it, so you can kind of see it as we work with it. And then you have the top mask, which is the watercolor, and then the base mask, which is the rectangle square here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my photo, bring it over here and drop it. I'm going to make it enlarge it here. Click the check mark, and it's on top of the watercolor mask. And so I'm going to, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go up to Edit and copy this photo. Now I'm going to go over here to the Layers panel, and I'm going to click on this photo, right click, make a create a clipping mask, so it gets clipped onto that watercolor mask. But we see that the rectangle one. Now you could put a different photo in here. You could totally bring a different photo in. Let me just go ahead and grab a photo real quick. I'll take some bananas from our property here. Okay. So we'll take the bananas, I'm going to bring them over, and I'm going to drag that layer down on top of the rectangle base layer clipping mask, and I'm going to right click and create a clipping mask to it. So it put the bananas, oops, I'm going to hit undo real quick because I want that to stay in the same place. I'm going to select the bananas and I'm going to enlarge them. And so it put the bananas in that rectangle, put it in the behind the watercolor. But what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I've clicked on that banana where the bananas are. I'm going to delete that layer. And what I'm going to do is, remember we copied the flowers. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit and paste. So it pastes the flowers on top again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, and it pasted it right in here because we were working on this base mask. And then you hit the create clipping mask. And so it kind of gives a shadow, and I think that looks pretty cool. I'm going to actually take off the stroke now and maybe make the shadow a little bit larger behind it. You can kind of see that shadow a little bit. So then you can, what you can do is, I come up here and to layers and merge visible. If you're happy with what you've got, merge visible. And then you can take and drag that whole frame and mask right over to your page. And if you want, you can put a bevel behind it, contour, kind of give it a little bit more definition. So those are just a few different ways that you can do your mask. If you have a PNG and it needs a background, needs a black background to make your clipping mask, you now know how you can make that clipping mask for it. And then just make sure that you move those, or you name them like whatever the frame name is, and then put clip behind on the back, on the black part. You can name that as clip, or you can just save the two. Let me open up another page here. Go ahead and delete these, and I'll bring in that pink mask again. Drop it over here. And then real quick, what I'll do is I'll again make a mask on the kind of eyeball. Left click and drag, drop. I need to make a new layer. I'm going to take the paint bucket and paint that circle black. Get my move tool, move it below the frame. And then if you take off the background, what you can do is you can actually go in and save this as a PNG. Probably best if you don't save it as a PNG, save it as a PSD file. That way you have both of the layers to work with, because if you save it as a PNG file, it's going to go, sorry, I made a mistake, it's going to, if you save it as a PNG, it's going to become one layer. So if you save it as a, I'm going to save it out here, ink frame with clipping mask. And I'm going to save it as a Photoshop, a PSD file. And I'm going to save it out to my desktop. And I forgot to Command D, but that's okay. So now you have that. And let me close that, and I'll go in and reopen from my desktop. Paint frame with clipping mask. I'm going to open that back up. And you can see it has both layers here. You can drag a photo over on top of it, on top of the black clipping mask, create the clipping mask, and then don't forget, if, let me make this a little larger, kind of blends in this frame, and any frame that you have, if it blends in too much with the photo, go ahead and just put a contour on it, gives a little bit of height and a drop shadow, and it gives a little bit of depth to your frame that makes it look like it is actually on top of the photo. So anyhow, I hope this helped. If you liked the video, please go and like, and please subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends that are other scrapbooking friends that maybe need some help or need some questions answered. Always welcome to have questions. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk at you later.